Okay, so what are the strategies, production strategies? Well, diversification should be part of it because we only eat rice and fish, basically. Intensification to increase the income and integration to improve the efficiencies of this production process. Well, you have seen this before, I'm showing it again, to emphasize an idealized version of a production system. It's an idealized version because, as I pointed out, no one has actually done it. It's still in the mind. But using this system, which is scientifically based on the science of ecology, you can produce a lot of agricultural products from a rice field. You can produce rice, meat, eggs, fish, with minimum of external input. You can imagine doing the same thing in a coconut area or a corn area. Use your imagination. That's the only limit. Well, it's actually being done in practice now to a limited extent. In Indonesia, they have what they call the sorghum system, where they grow an upland crop side by side with rice. Okay? Here are some pictures. The succeeding slides will be mostly pictures, just to tickle your imagination. Please don't hesitate to stop me if there is a need for it. Okay, here is one advocacy of field rice, which I started when I was with the Rice Institute. Here you have raised beds where dry land crops are grown, like vegetables or kangkong, and in between rice plants. So from the same field, you can grow rice and something else. In Indonesia, they grow patola in rice field. This is how they do it. They harvest patola when they're still small. It's perfect for consumption. Here is also from Indonesia. You have rice field there and cauliflower to your left. In Thailand, they have a fairly sophisticated way of irrigating raised beds. These are self-propelled sprinkler. It moves by itself because of the power of the kinetic energy of water coming out of the pump. Rice duct integration is a fairly recent introduction. The Japanese invention was adopted in Cagayan Valley, and it was shown that the profit can be multiplied about 5 times by introducing ducts into the equation. Rice fish, a very old technology from the Chinese, more than 2,000 years old. But strangely, we have not adopted it as fast as we have adopted rice. Well, the Philippine Carabao Institute has started a recent program to mix Carabao with rice. And so they have been convincing rice producers to also, take care of Carabao, be involved in Carabao husbandry to produce milk. Here is a fairly sophisticated integration system. The rice straw, after harvesting rice, is either fed to the Carabao. It's rich in energy, or it can be used for making mushrooms as a substrate for mushroom. The byproduct of mushroom production can be fed to Carabao, and of course the manure of the Carabao is used for making vermicompost. Vermicompost is probably the best organic fertilizer you can imagine. I've tried it myself, and it's much better than other organic fertilizers. Here is the latest attempt to integrate rice farming with energy production. It's It's a project started by a British national who has decided to establish himself in this country, mobilize scientific expertise from England, 2 universities, and then partnered with bio energy companies in the UK. And the objective is to try to extract methane from decomposing rice straw, and this methane can be used for cooking or even for running motor vehicles. That is the setup. You see here, they're covered with tarp. It's a big pile, about few meters, 3-4 meters high. When they put this tarp, cover it with the rice straw is covered with tarp, and they collect the methane that is generated by this rice straw as it decomposes. Then they put this into a set of machinery that compresses the methane, and they can sell it in tanks like what we buy from Shellane, etc. Here is another shot of the same facility. Then the byproduct is used for mushroom production. The byproduct of rice straw production of methane is used for producing mushrooms. And then the spent mushroom is used as a substrate for producing seedlings of vegetables as well as ornamental. So walang itinatapon, they use everything. And the mushroom itself, they evolved a chef to make mushroom burger. I've tasted it, it tastes better than the beef hamburger. So I see a very good future for this product. Here's another example, this time intensification. This is done by a very young person, Panu Pon, who's only 37 years old, and he claims to be able to produce 1 ton of melons from just 60 square meters. That's just the size of, a condominium unit, right? A big condominium unit, and you can produce 1 ton of melon worth 161,000. That's in about 3 months.
He's happy because he earns, or he's a bachelor?
Maybe he's happy because he's a bachelor. Okay, now let's look at the waters. I really believe that the future of food in this country is not on land, in spite of all the hype associated with farming. It's really in aquaculture. We have 7 times as much water as we have land. We haven't counted the West Philippine Sea. It's just the inland waters and the coastal waters that I'm talking about. It's 7 times more than land. So that's a big potential. The same principle of integrated farming can be applied in aquaculture. But we are more advanced conceptually and also technologically in utilizing this concept in land agriculture. Here, it's really just a drawing. Very few people have actually done this in this scale. Seaweeds, we used to be #1 exporter of seaweeds until the Indonesians overtook us. You know how? They hired Filipino technicians to Indonesia. So now Indonesia is the #1 exporter of seaweed. But seaweed is a very nutritious food. Unfortunately, out of more than 100 edible seaweed species, we only farm 4. Okay. So there's a lot of potential in seaweeds, both for industrial as well as for food purposes. Well, we have some existing work. The best example, if you like to see a good example, is in Panabo near Davao City, where they have this very successful model of private investors collaborating with national government as well as local government. The role of government is to provide the infrastructure as well as the support in terms of policy. And the private sector puts in the money required for it's a very expensive, capital intensive activity. And through the Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources, they have actually identified a number, more than 100 mariculture park or zones in the country, and very few are operational. But they are all open for exploration by the private sector. How it works like our economic zone or our export processing zone, where the government puts the infrastructure and the private sector comes in with capital and marketing skill. That's the whole concept. But as I said, I think Panabo is about the only one that is fully operational. There may be 2 or 3 others, but this is one field that can be exploited by our business people. Now, let's move on to urban farming. I have discussed terrestrial farming, aquatic farming. Urban farming is equally, if not more exciting. Why? Because the urban population is rapidly increasing. It's now close to 50%, and there are in the Philippines, and in other countries it's almost 60%. There are more people in urban areas than in rural areas. So it's a problem how to feed these urban people. The traditional model is to feed them from far away. We bring wheat from the US, etc., to feed our cities. But of course, this works only with a limited number of foodstuff, like grains that can easily be stored and handled. But if you imagine fruits and vegetables, then it becomes very, very difficult, expensive because of the waste involved, deterioration of these highly perishable products. So hydroponics is one thing that gives you an opportunity to produce large quantities in a small area. And it's not only the horizontal space. There's what we call vertical farming. You can actually utilize a vertical space for producing mostly vegetables. And edible landscaping. Instead of growing ornamentals, you can grow vegetable crops that also function as ornamentals. This is the favorite subject of the present Chancellor of UP Los Baños, Ernie. His expertise is ornamental horticulture, but I think he got hooked into growing vegetables too. So he is a very active advocate of edible landscaping. Here is the latest technology. I think last time I pointed out the potential of developers, those who are involved in producing, building condominiums and shopping centers. Like, I can imagine that in the Mall of Asia, where you have a concentration of so many condominium and shopping centers, you can put up something like this. It's aquaponics in the sense that this facility is able to produce vegetables as well as fish in the same facility. So the waste from vegetables or the waste from fish manure is used to fertilize water that is used by the vegetables. Well, there are other ideas, not so wild, but if you project maybe 20, 30 years from now, we'll really have to put more importance to insects. Going back to nature, our ancestors, the apes, have insects as the source of protein. Why? Because, monkeys cannot kill tigers and lions. Tigers and lions, we kill them. But, or of course, our ancestors are better able to do hunting. So, the monkeys ate insects. And, according to this information from FAO, about 20% of the world's population still eat insects. And even within the Philippines, if you go to Pampanga, some delicacies made of insects. Because the food of the future, as they say, is proteins from single-cell microorganisms. This is very efficient in producing food and less problem with pollution. So, don't be afraid. We're not going to be hungry. If only we can be less choosy with the food that we eat. Okay? Here is one example, adobong kamaru. This is a delicacy. You know this, no? In Pampanga. It's made of cricket, mole cricket. From single cell proteins, they actually sell this now in terms of food supplements, but sooner it will become a basic food ingredient. So what can be done with marketing? Well, as I said, in Kenya they found out that supermarkets are not really good for nutrition. So Hanoi tried to close down the supermarket, but of course it did not succeed. Even in a communist country, people have choices. Even if they travel 50 kilometers away, they go to the wet market, they go to supermarket, which are more convenient in terms of the food that they offer. In the Philippines, I'm happy to note that the government is reviving the food terminal. Is that in Pakistan?
Yes.
Yes, it is. Well, the past government has actually sold, I think, a third of it, but something survived. And if this is revived, then that will boost the work on diversification. I note here that this company actually started in FDI, food terminal. Why? Because they operate large cold storage facilities where they store onions. When they decommissioned FDI, the cost of onions went up. Why? Because onion is harvested in March and stored up to November. If you don't have adequate storage facilities, the price of onion will go up in November. So I'm happy this is being revived. The famous red Pinoy, now about 80% of our onion farmers actually started here. We went there in November when most of the onions were rotting. We selected those that are not rotting, and that started the new variety of long storage onion, which we call red Pinoy, okay, because it was done here in the Philippines. So this has some historic significance as far as I'm concerned. Well, in Caraga, it takes actually a very small investment to improve this supply chain. All the fishermen needed was an ice plant. And so DOST recognized this need. They bought an ice plant. And the co-op, the fishermen's co-op, were able to repay the loan from DOST, and they made so much progress in improving their income. Here is an example in Indonesia. They're using these advances in information technology to be able to link farmers directly to consumers. The idea is for consumers to pre-order vegetables and fruits, and they deliver this directly from the farm to the consumers. In the Philippines, we have a similar effort in San Jose and Nueva Ecija. They are also supplying directly to the consumers. Online stores, this is fairly recent also. The Benguet vegetable growers are linking up directly with consumers in Metro Manila. They can buy online and deliver vegetables straight to the market. Another recent innovation, this time again from the Department of Agriculture, is Food Innovation Center. The concept is that it's not only a place to sell fresh produce, but also they are involved in processing. So whatever excess they cannot sell in the fresh market, they process, and so they have a more diverse product and services. Well, in Indonesia, the local government tried to intervene by passing an ordinance requiring hotels and restaurants to use local products for their dishes. So this is something that people in government can try to copy. But the average consumer, you and me, can do something about achieving the PHA, and that is simply by going to the local wet market, which offer more diverse food stock and cheaper and more fresh. I do that every Sunday. I do the marketing because I'm single like my daughter. So I do the marketing for myself. So this is, I think, the last slide. 21 words. You have seen this before, but in case you forgot, 14 for everyone. Eat food, not too much. Eat local food that is in season. And for farmers, advocates, and government people, aim for a science-based, nature-inspired food system. So I hope that this 21 words can inspire you, us, and be more active in advocacy towards a planetary health diet for everyone. Thank you very much.
Mapecon, my good friend John Catan, who is a prolific inventor. I think he has, last time I heard it was 10 years ago, he had 18 patents to his name. I would be surprised if he has much more.
Several pending.
Yeah. Okay, so I hope you'll be here next week, same time, same place. In the meantime, we'd like to recognize our Mr. Rasco for being with us today. Who is going to do the presentation? Mr. President, will you please stand up and recognize him so we
There,
can...
it's up to your mouth.
Yeah.
There we go.
Okay.
Okay. I'd like to thank where's our treasurer of the Philippines? She's not here.
Nina is not here.
Okay.
Okay.
For all the UP Mafia and the others, we'd like to say that treasurer of the Philippines, who's now they puts
Okay.
this stuff, okay? It's on YouTube.
Yes, you're coming out in YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's going to be seen internationally.
Right.
Yeah, okay. So please put a good smile.
Right.
Don't have a frown, okay?
If they open it. No, but we want to thank her because this is the revolution of this thing. You'll be on YouTube international. But what is ready, but don't know. I won't read the whole thing. I just say that this certificate of appreciation is given to you on behalf of all these institutions here, right? And for the first time, we have conversation, you are the speaker. And we'd like to say that you are the representative of the UP Mafia with us. And we'd like to say that you're the first wife we're taking. We're gonna take many wives from Muslim, right? But I think the first one, we're gonna do some officially, maybe a memo of agreement between us, but we'd like to say that the technology you've given the world in the International Political Center, UPSB, etc., this thing we now want to do here. And for me, one of our symbols is Gayo Pangko, because he's the guy who can really make it. So, Dean Dong Rasco, we'd like to thank you for coming to us, and we'd like to say that it's the start of a long journey. Congratulations. accordingly. These are gems of wisdom from Rod Osorio. For those of you who don't know, you don't start the money market here. Sixto Ross and Ramon Osorio. But Ramon Osorio is like the daughter of Big Ross. Because the daughters do the details, right? Like your daughter's doing the details. And Ramon is the one to start money market here. Now he's going to make his mark in bringing agriculture to fruition. Right? So these are his goals. And we'd like to say that the one I favor is the 1,000 in history. He did it himself. One of 1,000 great people, some Filipinos. Maybe Tom, just as there's this 20-second word, maybe the 1,000 at first. So the win is next.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Good morning, see you next week. And we will now start the annual meeting.